I'd like to call us to order, please. Dawn, roll call, please.
Mr. Peterson,
I am here.
Dr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Here.
Mayor Carlson,
Here.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn, Mr. Ebbinger,
Here.
Mr. Strand,
Here.
Mr. Campbell,
Here.
Mrs. Sherling, Mr. Olson, Mr. Seljevold.
Here.
Quorum is present.
We do have a quorum. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. I know we are busy. Grateful for your presence. With that, we move on to item 2, which is approval of the meeting minutes from April 28th. Looking for a motion to approve or discuss, please.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Move and second. Prior meeting minutes to be approved as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do you have to do a roll call with the person?
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Commissioner Hendrickson, can you hear me okay, sir?
I said aye. I was on mute, though. I apologize.
No wonder. I just want to make sure you can hear us, sir. Appreciate you. Thanks.
Yeah,
Item 3 is the approval of the order of agenda. Looking for a motion to approve. I don't see any amendments before us, so looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Move and second. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Consent agenda. Diversion Authority members, presume we had a chance to review the consent agenda presented to us prior. Looking for a motion to approve or discuss, please.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Aye.
Mr. Ebbinger,
Aye.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Seljevold.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Motion passes. Consent agenda is approved as presented. Thank you, everyone. On to our regular agenda. Item 4 is our Executive Director report. Mr. Paulson is out. Mr. Nicholson, I believe you are going to pinch hit for my good friend Joel, yes?
Yes, sir. Chairman Peterson.
Wonderful.
Board, I will do my best to fill his shoes.
Big shoes to fill, Martin.
Big shoes to fill.
Mighty big
to fill.
shoes. You do your
Mighty
best.
big shoes.
Godspeed.
I will. A short report. That's how I'm going to fill his shoes. Short and brief. The happenings for this last month. The program continues to get notoriety in a variety of ways and getting the word out. Both Joel and Greg Thompson were at the Association of State Floodplain Managers Conference last week, making a technical presentation on the project and how it will improve flooding conditions in the local community. The Financing America's Infrastructure Conference, he and a couple of members from Acciona were on a panel earlier this week and making another presentation about the P3 part of the project. Commissioner Peterson, Joel Paulson, and myself accepted yet another award, the America's P3 Deal of the Year Award from the, I do not have it with me.
I heard it was so heavy, Chad had a hard time carrying it out of the room. Come on, where's the award?
Well, I did not have a hard time carrying interestingly enough, but the room was full of power brokers from across the planet. It was an incredible scene. During my commission meeting, I described it as if you've ever heard the term Illuminati, that was the room we were in. So it was those people, and it was incredible. It was a wonderful blessing, and once again, it validates further how good of a diversion project we have before us. And not only do we know, do our local representatives, our team members know, but of course the people in Bismarck, our friends in DC, and now our friends across the world. It's remarkable. It truly is. So it was an honor to be there, and it was wonderful.
And that brings, I believe, the total now to about 8 global and national awards that the project has received. And I'm sure there'll be more awards as all the project participants are looking to apply for notoriety as being part of this deal. Quickly on the P3 update, I hope that all of you have the groundbreaking and community event planning that is in progress for August 9th, 2022. We understand that our RVA is looking to also have some sort of a community event to have the public participate and celebrate the beginning of what will be one of the largest impactful projects this community will see in its history. I won't get into the core updates in any detail. Hopefully Terry will cover those later, but bids have been awarded on the Drayton Dam project, Drain 27, and Southern Embankment SE2A projects. And that concludes my executive director report.
Mr. Nichols, can you remind us on the date, please?
Excuse me?
The date of the groundbreaking?
August 9th.
There it is right there.
August 9th.
Do we have a time,
I do not have that time in my head. Does anyone?
Martin? Just
2 p.m.? 2 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
2 p.m.
Because morning would have created a problem with county commission meetings.
So scheduled for 2 p.m. and I suspect any other community event would be after that.
Yeah, I have my calendar marked at 2.
I don't recall seeing it.
Wonderful. Any further questions? Authority members? Mr. Nicholson, anything further?
Nothing.
Thank you, sir. Item 5 on our agenda, General Counsel update. Mr. Shockley has it must be something fun. You haven't done anything at all? Like nothing to report this whole time? Okay, I guess that'll be reflected in finance that we just approved. Good to know. Okay, Mr. Shockley, thank you, sir. Thanks again, as always, with sincerity, your team members. We know you work 24/7 and are eternally grateful for that, my friend. Item 6 on our agenda, U.S. Army Corps, Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon, Chairman Peterson. Can you hear me okay from St. Paul?
Splendiferously.
All right. This is the monthly update for May for the Corps of Engineers, bottom line up front. As of 19 May, the Corps has awarded all 4 of the construction contracts that we had planned for this year. The Red River Structure, Drain 27 Wetland Restoration, Reach SE2A, and Drayton Dam Mitigation Project. The total contract amount is about $133 million. So quite proud of our team for accomplishing all 4 contracts that we had planned to do this year. I'll get into the construction update. The most recent drone footage will be shown right after I talk here. So that will cover mostly what's going on at the DIS and the Wild Rice. For the diversion inlet structure, it's 79% complete. Again, they continue to prepare to hang the gates this summer. For the Wild Rice River structure, we're at 53% complete and remain on schedule. The pouring of the center pier, as you'll see in the drone footage, and also preparing to receive delivery of the gates this midsummer. Number 3, the I-29 raise. If anybody's driven south on I-29, you've experienced the detour due to reconstructing that County Road 18 interchange that goes off, to the east into the Oxbow, Hicks, and Bakke area. The mainline raise will occur from south to north and be complete next summer. Number 4, HSC1, we're at about 80% complete. That'll be, construction will be done this fall. Number 5, the Red River structure. They are currently clearing trees on the site, and by mid-June, they should have all of the prep work to start construction, like getting the office trailers in, site stripping and all of that. So mid-June, we'll start seeing probably some excavation of the hole that's already there to prepare to start driving pile this summer. Number 6, Drain 27 wetland mitigation. We awarded that on 28 April for about $3.9 million. We had to just award the base contract due to the lands issue south of 112th Avenue. Moving on to Drayton Dam, we awarded that on 19 May to HSG Park JV for just under $8 million. So that firm now has 2 construction contracts with us, Drain 27 and Drayton Dam. Notice to proceed was just issued today for Drayton. So the next step is to have a pre-construction meeting, get their submittals in, and then start construction up at Drayton. Number 8, Southern Embankment, Reach SE2A. That was awarded on 12 May for just over $6 million to a firm called HG Construction out of Platte City, Missouri. That has to be completed by September of 2024. So there's a couple years of construction for that reach that's between the inlet and drain 27. Number 9, this is all the design that keeps ongoing for us. All of the remaining reaches, 1B, 2B, 3, 4, and 5. Those are the percent reviews that are starting basically up in July for SC4 and 2B. Our additional activities are listed. We continue to support the design and construction of the diversion channel under P3, continue forest and cultural mitigation planning, emergency action planning, and the water control manual. With that, are there any questions, Chairman Peterson?
Board members, any questions for our friends in the Army Corps?
Mr. Chairman.
Mayor Mahoney, please.
Terry, on your bids when it came in construction, we've all been a little worried about creep in construction cost. Were you underneath the engineer's estimate?
So for all 4 of the contracts, we were underneath the engineer's estimate, yes. So I'm pleased to report that we've all, I guess, been worried about creep of material costs and all of that. So for us to come in, get some good bids under or around our government estimates is a very welcome situation, Mayor Mahoney.
I suppose our friends in Washington kind of like that because it makes the Corps look pretty good, doesn't it?
We're feeling pretty good, Mayor.
Anything further from our friends from the Army Corps? Wonderful. Looks like we have a bit of a flyover.
Hi, I'm Chris Bakkegaard, the Director of Engineering for the Metro Flood Diversion Authority, and I'm here to update you on progress made in May on the FM Area Diversion Comprehensive Project. Ames Construction, a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers contractor, continues to prepare to install the radial arm tainter gates on the first 2 of the 3 gated structures used to route water to the diversion channel. Over at the diversion inlet structure, where the gates have already been delivered, Ames is progressing towards their installation. Seals and side yoke plates have been constructed as well to ensure the gates, which together weigh nearly as much as the Statue of Liberty, will fit tightly between the abutments and piers. This month at the Wild Rice River structure, crews poured over 500 cubic yards of concrete for the center pier. The pier separates the structure into 2 bays and serves as a center anchor point for both gates. The Corps of Engineers observed the contractor as they performed dimension checks on the gates at the manufacturing facility in Alabama this week to ensure a precise fit, and the gates will be delivered later this summer. As we move to the I-29 grade raise project, you'll notice progress on the bridge. The support structures at the ends of the bridge and in the I-29 median are nearing completion. Industrial Builders also has begun work raising County Roads 18 and 81 east of the structure.
There we are, team members. Looks like we're pounding some nails in the field. Good stuff. Anything further under the Army Corps item? Team members, Army Corps team? If not, let's progress to item 7, public outreach, as I relearn English momentarily. Amy, are you going to tackle this for us?
I will.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I have just a few quick updates. This month, we're continuing to work on the website and are thrilled to say that all the current updates have been completed while we're working forward toward the new site. We also added a few new pieces. There is a section now for our Faces of the Diversion. And one thing that we have been working hard toward is we've been getting tour requests coming in kind of piecemeal through different people and realized we really need a better process, especially with the P3 on board. And so now we have a form that should go live in the next couple of weeks, and it will actually direct to who would be doing the tour based on what the interest level is, whether it's once we start doing some groundbreaking on the diversion channel or some of the gated structures. And then a newsletter sign up form will be added soon too, which I have a little bit more on the next couple of slides here. So here is our newsletter. This is just a quick look at what's to come. It will be a monthly newsletter that we are partnering with RRVA on. It's part of our, it's required by the TRs. And so each month beginning in early June, we will be sending this out. And then just one more slide. We're continuing to monitor social media as we're getting up to speed, seeing what resonates with our audience. And so we're seeing that the drone video, like you just saw, is really one of the key pieces that our audience is reacting to. And just continuing to monitor that as we test some content and get up and running with all of that. And then in the meantime, we're just working on wrapping up a number of videos. We'll be ready to send an office address change notification here soon once the MFDA is completely relocated. And then as part of the tours that we're looking at, we're putting together some handouts so they have a little something to leave with. With that, I'm open to any questions you may have.
Board members, any questions for our Friends of Public Outreach? Any questions? If not, I found the website exponentially more usable.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's been just swimmingly efficient, so I'm grateful for that myself. So just so you know.
Wonderful.
Any other questions? If not,
and thank you all for getting your pictures taken. We'll update that on the website soon too.
well, that's very important. If not the most, that's even more important than the channel, probably, right?
Absolutely.
Gee whiz. All right, thank you much. On to land management. Commissioner Sherling is out. Ms. Smith, I believe you are going to tackle this one, correct?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
So Chairman and members of the board, in your packet, you'll see a recommendation coming from the MCC JPA, which was unanimously approved on April 28th. This recommendation does include a letter from our executive director making the recommendation that we create a separate process for our organic lands. As you can see through the memo, the first step of the process is that we will appraise the value of those organic lands. This was completed in November of 2021. The second step then is to identify all of our organic landowners and the asset lands. This has been completed. Within that second step, additionally, we will be offering the organic lands first to other organic farmland producers. That step has not been completed. It is pending your approval today. Our land agents are anxiously awaiting because they have been talking to several of the landowners already about this opportunity. If the organic farmland owners are not interested in those parcels, the next step would be that it would be kind of held in our queue for our farmers who are impacted by the southern embankment, and we'd be looking for a land exchange opportunity. If none of those are interested in the property, it would then go out to public auction. We did have several of our land agents at the MCC JPA meeting a little bit earlier, and they assured us that we would not get to step 4, that they have several landowners who are specifically interested in this land. So today, the recommendation is that you approve the disposal of the organic farmland following the steps in the attached recommended letter. And I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Board members, questions?
Move to approve.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. The proposal be accepted as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Strand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, with a situation or an opportunity like this, would there be any value in running this past our Cass Clay community, our food commission, that have a reach through the whole region and might have a sense of maybe some opportunities we may not think of? I don't know if there'd be a downside to that, but.
Ms. Smith, open table.
I'm looking to Commissioner Campbell. I can see his something to say.
Yeah.
I would say Commissioner Campbell may have an answer for you, Commissioner
Well, I
Strand.
hope so.
Well, I don't know that I have the answer, but what I do know that what we're looking for in the intent here. So we have 4 remaining organic farmland owners on the Minnesota side who we need to acquire property from, and they've indicated that they'd like to continue organic farming. We happen to have, for the remaining acres that we have available that qualify for organic farming, we have the same number of parcels that we have to acquire. And so our first proposal here would be to keep it organic farming, but the process would be to do an acre for acre exchange for what we have to take, and to allow them to move their organic land to something that's already qualified as organic land. In terms of your question, moving forward to some of these other food partners, I think the goal is to keep it under organic ag production. And what those individuals would do with it and how they distribute it or where they take it, I think goes to your question. And I don't know that's part of our negotiation process in terms of making sure that the acquisition can happen as we've hoped it to happen. I don't know if that answers your question or not. But.
Commissioner Campbell, that does help me, and I think that's great if we can do a swap and an exchange, organic land for organic land. If that doesn't happen, and if it's going down the path of offered to the public for sale, then I would like to intercede and see if we have partners in our reach out there through the food community to see if they have suggestions or ideas, because it's a public asset. And they may, it's just that, so if that doesn't happen, let's keep this on our radar and be open to thinking about, it'd be a loss to not have organic land stay organic when we have it available now, if there's any way to do that.
Based on our preliminary discussions and references that we're having from our land agents, I don't think there's going to be an issue in terms of that staying organic land and the trades that we're looking at. The biggest issue is, of the remaining property owners who want it. I think our message is encouragement is to hurry up and sign up for the one for one that they want. Because we've talked about it. We talked about our MCC GAPA meeting today that needs to be on a first come, first serve basis. So if you have farmer A wants these 80 acres, we would suggest that they don't wait around, because farmer B might want also those same 80 acres and might, so it's a goal is to get it done and get it done rapidly. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mayor Dardis?
Yes.
Mayor Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger?
Aye.
Mr. Strand?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Seldervold?
Yes.
That is everyone.
Motion passes for the disposal of organic farms. Ms. Smith, you have something further regarding item B, property acquisition status report.
I do. So you can see on page 166 of the packet an overall view of our acquisition status. So I'm going to go through this a little bit differently than maybe you're used to since I was given the podium today. As you can see on here, a particular note is the acquired via last resort and eminent domain. We have seen a decrease in this. You can expect to see a news article coming out in the Forum either tomorrow or on Saturday, as I've been requested to comment on how our eminent domain actions are going. In there, it's good for you to know, in December, we had 31 landowners with 97 parcels. As of the board meetings today, when we reported out, we have 26 landowners with 84 parcels. That is all the result of negotiations that we're able to sit down either directly with the landowners or with their legal counsel and come to an agreement that has been supported by the Cass County Joint Water Resource District Board. In that, it's also important to note that we have 2 additional agreements that are working their way through the process. The landowners, legal counsel, and the board have all respectively accepted those agreements, and we're just waiting for them to be signed. So that is included in those 84 parcels. So you'll continue to see this number dropped. I have been working with legal counsel this week to meet with some of our plaintiffs. I have several. I probably have 5 landowners lined up for the month of June. So again, when we have actively participating landowners and legal counsel, we have found that it's been very successful to sit down and do some mediation and find a resolution without having going through the court process. So that's a testament to our land agents, the work that they've done, to us, the work that they've done, and our legal counsel and their willingness to sit down and have a conversation, as well as the landowners willing to come to the table and sit with us and work through some of these issues. So another thing to note on here, I know there was a question last month that was posed to Joel. What is the percentage complete? I know Carol over AE2S has pulled these numbers for us, so I think it's important to note within the channel, we are 98% complete. That does include our last resort eminent domain. Note, we're not 100% complete because we have one parcel that we kind of overlooked that we're going to go back through and look, and there's one MOU there waiting to be signed. Within the southern embankment, we're 77% complete in acquiring the parcels. The upstream mitigation area, those are our flowage easements. We just started that project in March. We're already 17% complete on that. And then our environmental mitigating easements or monitoring easements, we're actually at 71% complete, and we continue to work on that. And I know I work with Jessica a lot on that, and every month, they come trickling in 2 to 3 at a time. But we are gaining some successes on that. So are there any questions that I can answer for you as far as a lands update?
Commissioner Strand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, in the light of your report, what do we need to know, or what will be changing in after the Supreme Court decision about quick takes?
Chairman and members of the board, that's a very good question. Really, when we looked at that opinion as it was issued through the Supreme Court, and I'll let John throw something in the back of my head if he says I'm speaking out of turn, is that it was very specific to the Savageau property. And so we've had the legal team kind of scouring through that. How does that relate to any of our properties? We don't see it necessarily applying to all of the properties that we've entered into quick take. And so we're taking the lessons learned from that. It was a clarifying effort on the Supreme Court's part on the process that we need to use, but we do view that as being very specific to the Savageaus and not necessarily applicable to some of our other properties, but certainly a part of our conversation as we're discussing those properties. And then when we do get to the point of perhaps needing to go into eminent domain, that will be a part of that conversation as well moving forward.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Ms. Smith? What's that, Commissioner Campbell? You have something to add?
Yes, I'm going to give a little report on our MCC JPA meeting that we had today.
That would be prudent doing that right now.
Yeah, okay. So the first item, we did approve a farmland lease agreement, and this happens to be an agreement that deals with organic land. And so what we did talk about today, and we did approve it today with the understanding that the tenant is responsible to maintain the organic nature of that property. So that, in other words, he has to abide by the rules that dictate that it's organic land. And we shouldn't have any problem with that because the tenant who was the one who had the organic farm in the first place. So that shouldn't be an issue. Then we also had 2 contracting actions. One was with Crown Appraisals, task order number 4. And that was moving forward with under phase 3, and that had to do with other types of properties other than tillable land. There were 21 parcels involved there, so we did approve that task order. And also then we had another, and that was with Crown Appraisals, and then we did another task order amendment to the Compass Land Consultants, and that was for the same thing with different types of lands other than the tillable land, and there were 7 parcels involved with that, and those were all clear to go through our MCC JPA today.
Wonderful. Any questions for Commissioner Campbell or Ms. Smith? Any questions? If not, proceed. Thank you much. Proceed on to item 9, the finance update. Mayor Dardis, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. The consent agenda items A through E are the items that came before the Finance Committee meeting. We did have a meeting yesterday. All passed unanimously as the presentations were made by various members of the team. One of the things that we're going to specialize a little bit today on and focus on is item A under the finance update, the program budget and financial plan baseline, and I'd call on Mr. Mark Nicholson for that.
Thank you. Chairman Peterson, members of the board, I'll do a brief presentation with respect to what has been anticipated really since we have awarded the P3 contract and locked in those costs, which were a major commitment on behalf of the authority for paying back what is roughly a $1.3 billion, $1.4 billion net present value contract in terms of your channel, public-private partnership. So I thought I would revisit a slide that was used back in 2015, I believe, first to talk about how the financial plan inputs are developed, and then what the financial plan includes to be able to produce the numbers that I'm going to review today. So on the left-hand side of your screen is the cost and risk inputs. So those are cost estimates done mostly through Jacobs and their team with respect to construction cost and the acquisition cost of lands, cost of mitigation, all of the MOUs, the settlement agreements, everything that has been agreed to by the authority, relocating utilities, all of the non-construction costs, legal, financial, technical, and then of course the contingency. And I think through the lunch and learns that Paul has put on, you probably have an appreciation for the number of items in the risk register, how they're priced and how they're managed to come up with a contingency number. All of those are then spread across the construction period by year, really by month, and then those inputs are then put into the financial model. The financial model is where cost escalation is considered. So we produce these costs in current dollars. The financial plan says if you're going to spend something out in 2025, you escalate it at 3%, and that's going to be your real cost out there in the future. We have included the interest rates that we believe are appropriate for all of the borrowing that is needed short-term through construction, all of the revenue sources, the state grant funds, obviously the sales tax revenue is your primary revenue source through the construction period and beyond. And of course, all of the financing costs, and we've all talked about the great work that John has done and others through EPA WIFIA to land some very attractive financing that has greatly assisted the affordability of the project to remain on track. So once we take those inputs, run the financial model, if you go to the next slide, Peggy, please. We come up with what is the program budget for the Diversion Authority's costs. So I'll take a bit to go through this table. The column A, for those of you that review the financial plan information or go on the dashboard, those are essentially the checks that the authority has to write through construction to afford the project. So it includes all of the line items in black, and that is what is on the current dashboard and what the PMC is tracking against and what your budget is tracking against and reported each month. Column B is the result of our recent work in rebaselining the program. So it includes dollars at 2022 basis and all of the modifications to some of the titles in red, which are really cleanups to more accurately reflect what's being tracked in each one of those buckets. The next column to the right, the delta column, is simply the math between today's numbers and what the numbers were in 2019. So you can see that the increase in the obligations of the authority through construction are around $376 million. That may seem like a big number because it is a big number. But we'll get into the affordability index of this in the next slide. But I wanted to take a minute to preview some questions you might have regarding some of the deltas. So the bigger numbers, milestone payments to the developer, $100 million. That is not an actual increase of $100 million in the P3. You'll recall we estimated a certain amount of milestone payments, and then there are annual payments for 30 years that are part of really paying back the developer for their equity and money they bring to the table. So the balance of that is just different. We had a higher annual availability payment and a lower milestone payment. They came in with a process with some higher milestone payments and some lower annual availability payments. The other large numbers are lands and impacted property mitigation. Excuse me, $155 million. That has to be offset by, if you look in column A for designated options and easements after 2024, you'll recall that the 2019 plan was completed after the legislature granted a commitment of $750 million when we were looking for $870. So you'll notice those three lines of designated projects total to about $120 million. So what that means is, had we not received that funding, those projects would have been at risk. So now that the state has completed their obligations and come to 870, all of the designated projects in 2019 are now fully funded in the 2022 plan. So land prices did not go up by 155. We were counting on about 80 more, so that's roughly a $70 million number. The other large numbers are third-party MOU. That includes the settlement agreement, all of the obligations expressed in all of the township and other MOUs. So all of those costs are in there. The other numbers are puts and takes, as you can see. One other comment that I'll make is that these numbers do not include numbers for flood project improvements, both on the Minnesota side by the city of Moorhead and on the North Dakota side by the city of Fargo, that were outside the comprehensive project. So there are other projects that have been built in the community for flood protection that are not included but have never been part of this comprehensive project. So this is the picture through construction. And once you finish construction, you will pay off your short-term debt. You see the Wells Fargo loan payment, repayment, and the temporary refunding improvement bonds repayment, around $330 million. Those are repaid by long-term debt that is taken out. So the next slide looks at the picture of how do you repay the long-term debt and how do you pay the annual payments that you owe the P3 developer. So a couple of important lines on this graph. The solid black line is a line of revenue growth based on an assumption of sales tax revenues growing at 1.5%. So that was the number that we used in the 2019 plan, and it's an appropriate number and a conservative number to ensure that you can handle some variation in what we know to be sales tax growth that has historically been greater than that. The dashed line is what we call the break-even line. So if sales tax grows at 2.9%, sales tax revenues are sufficient to cover all of the long-term debt and all of the annual payments. So for an affordability consideration in 2019, that break-even number was around 2.5%. So even though we've seen significant growth in cost and obligations, the affordability of the project hasn't changed materially. And that's because why? We've got very attractive interest rates on all of our long-term financing, and we've seen nice, healthy sales tax growth that helps us rebaseline that to a different number. So if you go to the next slide, Peggy, thank you. Just a few comments to close. The costs through construction completion, as I say, remain within the short-term financing ability. You have sufficient capacity in your sales tax revenues and other backstop sources to borrow the short-term money. You have the ability to service the long-term debt and P3 payments within your ability to afford. The financed contingency, we are still financing contingency at about the same level. So you're still protected on that for changes up to about $160 billion. And as I stated, all long-term debt and payments are covered if your sales tax receipts grow at 2.9% per year or greater. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Team members, any questions? Mayor Dardis, please.
Not a question. I want to acknowledge the work that Paul Barthol and Martin Nicholson. Paul has been amazing to work with. The purpose of all of these lunch and learns that we had was to get to this point, because the Finance Committee felt that it was very important to rebase, and that was a critical. You know, we were working with numbers that were 3 years old, and there were times when there were significant changes being made because of mitigations and the like. And one of the constant questions was, how are we tracking those changes and how they affect the whole financial plan? Through Paul's efforts and understanding with us, and I must say some patience as well, we're grateful for that, because when this first report, when the first sheet came out with the yellow lines on it, that's pretty sobering. Obviously, we're accounting for some of the mitigation things that we know that are increasing in cost to us and the like. And so that was very sobering. But the good news is due to generations of responsible leadership that goes back to the beginning of the Diversion Authority and probably even before, it was absolutely critical on the percentage of what the sales tax might rise, as well as the backup plans, is how you went to the state of Minnesota, how we went to the state of North Dakota, how we went to the federal, and how we had a great partnership with the Corps of Engineers. So to get to this point today, these numbers will start being reported to you on a monthly basis starting next month. But again, the slide that Martin had with regard to the revenues and the like, that was welcome news. And Mr. I've neglected to mention Mr. Shockley. He has been absolutely, as we all know, critical as part of this and keeping us on track. So despite the increases in the fact that it's $376 million, this project continues to be very affordable for us. And again, due to the generations of great leadership and the consultants that we have on this, is a result of the news that we're sharing with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Strand, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A topic I've been asking about for a few years now, and I would actually like to see a formal presentation to our full board. A lot of folks don't know that our sales tax has a cap on it. And I'd like to know the implications. I'd like a formal report on the status of our tax, who has the caps, what do the caps on tax collections mean, what would be the availability of avenues to explore a vote of the public or change of those ceilings or caps on our sales taxes, because I have a sense it would have a profound effect on our paying back of this project. And I'm not going to just insert a bunch of editorial comment right now, except it's time for us to formally look at that topic and not just keep kicking the can down the road. We've never discussed it formally. And if we're going to do it, this is a request I would like to advance.
Certainly, Commissioner Strand and members of the board, we will take that back and certainly have the capacity to pull that together and have a presentation for the board. Thank you.
Mayor Carlson, please.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. Just wanted to thank you, Mr. Nicholson, for the Mr. Martinson. I didn't know if you'd catch that or not.
I did. I caught it.
Anyway, just wanted to extend my appreciation for the acknowledgement of the the vast sum of money that the state of Minnesota has contributed to the flood diversion project. There were a number of in-town projects that were done in the city of Moorhead that were completed prior to the JPA even being signed. And so sometimes those things are not reflected. And I look forward to a time where we just, even if it's a little asterisk, that shows the contribution that the state of Minnesota has made, since it's well over $100 million. So thank you so much.
Any further questions or comments for our team? Mr. Martinson, anything further to add?
Chairman, I believe the request is to for a recommendation to the program management consultant Jacobs to begin this tracking that Bernie has asked for. I think they would like some acknowledgement that beginning in June, you would see status against the rebaseline numbers and that work breakdown structure versus the one you have on your dashboard now.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make that motion.
Second it.
Moving second. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. There you go. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Anything further to add? Mr. Nicholson, thank you, sir. Obviously, as everyone else said, I will reiterate, grateful for your team and all your team members' time on this incredibly important matter. Item 10, other business, Jacob safety presentation. Mr. Chrisman.
Thank you, everybody. I am Zach Chrisman with Jacobs, and I am the lead safety and P3 field monitor for our team. I will be going through and reading some highlights from our safety, starting on page 177 of the packet. First and foremost, safety is number one, priority number one. Then Jacobs, we've developed a comprehensive project health, safety, and environmental plan to ensure process leading to project risks are being eliminated or mitigated through the identification of hazards, assessment of risk, and the application of effective control measures to achieve a safe and healthy workplace for ourselves and the sub-consultants to whom we have legal and moral duty of care are established. We've also created an initial hazard identification and risk assessment, which will be updated throughout the program. And as part of the PHSEP, or the Project Health, Safety, and Environmental Plan, we have a step back process, which is a task level, personal, and team risk assessment and hazard identification process. It's developed to ensure that non-routine tasks are completed without an adverse event occurring. We'll let you read through that. Beyond Zero is a huge culture of ours, and that as Jacobs has developed and pushed. It's our approach to health, safety, and security of our people, and to the protection of the environment and the resilience of the project. And it's the foundation of our company's culture of caring and a core part of our values of who we are at Jacobs. Our vision, work must be healthy, safe and secure for our people and our planet. We go beyond our workplace and into our daily lives, creating a safer and healthier future for our families and communities. So we push safety not only at the project or at our office, but beyond the office, and take it home with you. Definitely want you going home safer, or as safe as you did coming into the office. On the next page are Jacobs' personal protective requirements. We are required to wear hard hats, safety glasses, protective boots, long pants, a shirt with at least 4-inch sleeves, gloves, and a high visibility vest. Our field staff training requirements, driving safety, RRVA or the developer site specific safety training, OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 classes, first aid, CPR, and AED, E-Rail Safe, and BNSF contractor orientation and roadway worker protection. We have been and will continue to participate and work with the developer to maintain a safe project throughout the duration of the project. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Chrisman. Looking at your safety requirements, the shirt with 4-inch sleeves, does that mean Mayor Mahoney can't wear tank tops on site anymore, or is that just for your team?
Well, for Jacob's requirements.
Okay, so Mayor Mahoney, you're still good to wear tank tops. Good to know. Okay, board members, any questions for our safety team? Commissioner Strand, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a really important topic, and it's good that it's on our radar, the value of safety. A question I have is when we're awarding contracts, are we vetting our applicants' safety records as a consideration for whether or not they're considered for getting an award?
That is a wonderful question, and I'm going to have to turn to Paul for that to help me out. Thank you, Paul.
So when you talk of awarding contracts, there's a couple different types of contracts that we're working with. The first and foremost is the P3 contract. And within that contract, we did require the developer to provide us their health and safety plan, and it was part of their proposal. The draft version of that were part of the proposals that we received. So yes, they were evaluated on their health and safety plans, their safety approach to the project, and how that's going forward. Then we have also been integrating with them, reviewing those plans as they've finalized them. They've gone from draft version to final version. So if you hear the terms NTP1 or NTP2, especially notice to proceed to NTP2, that is basically the box that allows them to go out in the field in construction. And so they have to have their health and safety plan finalized and in place prior to achieving that NTP2 notification, so that it's critical for them to get out in the field that they have to have their training in place, their employees trained, and the health and safety plan in place. The other types of projects that we bid are based upon, much like the city, much like the counties, it's a low bid type environment that we bid our demo projects and things that way. So in that sense, is it part of the bid? No, it's a low bid type effort. However, included in the contracting, included in their bid is the safety and the health and safety and the safety requirements. Prior to the award of the bid, they have to provide us with the information that tells us how they're going to keep the site safe, how they're going to keep the site secure. Those type of things are all included in the specifications.
If I might continue, Mr. Chairman, having a plan is one thing, but having a past history of inadequate safety protections for workers is what I'm concerned about. If we have applicants for contracts, big and small, and you have one applicant that has had incidents in the workplace where people have been injured or killed, I think that's an important measure besides a dollar value for a bid only. I don't want to be giving bids to people who have a history or incidents of unsafe workplaces in their past. Having a plan going forward, so somehow if we can connect the dots of what their history is and how that connects to their plans, having a plan is critical, but also having the integrity of the people applying, the businesses applying, that's their culture, that's what they do, and or if they've had incidents of injuries and accidents and deaths. I want to know that's vetted.
Okay.
Seriously vetted.
Absolutely. And that was why we, especially on the P3, the size of that contract, why we included it in there. Within the other bidding procedures, those are a little bit more restricted by the standard bidding process and the requirements, federal and state requirements for the bidding process. So we can look at that. We can include it in our specifications. We'll take that back and work with Mr. Shockley and his team to make sure that we are within the law. But if there's something that we can add to their bid submittals, we'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Strand, one of the things that may be helpful, though it doesn't guarantee anything, but a lot of the times it's things regarding even insurance bonding, payment bonding, performance bonds, what you'll find is most contractors in situations like this almost self-eliminate because their liability insurance is too fat, too high, too much, where they're going to come in a competitive bid environment and they'll be 1 or 2% higher simply because their liability insurance is too expensive and they'll knock themselves out. And again, it's not assurance, it's not a guarantee, and it's a good thing to look. But I think if it helps you sleep at night and rest a little bit easier knowing that these people are good performers, is that more often than not, they'll eliminate themselves. And frankly, half the time they won't bid because they know the circumstances. OSHA typically pays a lot more attention to bigger projects like this, whether it's right or wrong, it is what it is. So those people that are bad actors, for lack of a better term, don't seek the limelight. So again, it's not a guarantee, but I hope it helps you rest a little bit better. Yes.
And if I continue too, what I think we have a couple OSHA inspectors for 2 states or something like that. It would take them like 99 years to inspect everybody out there. So I'm not counting on that proactively. Maybe de facto they can do their inspections. Another concern that happens through time is businesses get cited and fined, and then 6 months, a year later, their fines are erased or cut in half or diminished down to nothing. So proactively up front, from my perspective, the highest value we can advance is every single contract we're looking at awarding, we look at their safety records and we give awards, and and that's a value we measure. What is their history? What is their track record? Have they had incidents in the past? Have they addressed them? Do they still? And then go forward. But I don't want to see contracts going to anybody that had a workplace death last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and then OSHA cut it in half anyway. It's just something I'm very, very passionate about.
Noted, Commissioner. Anything further, board members? Anything further from Jacobs? If not, anything else for the go to the order, commissioners and mayors and board members? If not, our next meeting is June 23rd, and I'd look for a motion to adjourn, please. Is there a second, please? Second. All those in favor? Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you much, everyone.